When the galaxy summoned its greatest hunters, Earth sent a teen having a bad day. The rain fell hard on the city streets of Earth, turning broken sidewalks into shallow rivers. People hurried past with heads down, coats pulled tight, eyes fixed on phones or the ground. Near a cracked bus stop shelter stood a teenage boy named Eli. He was soaked, cold, and tired. His backpack hung heavy on one shoulder. His shoes were wet inside, and every step felt wrong. It had been a bad day. Not the kind people joked about, but the kind that stayed quiet and heavy. He had failed a test at school. His teacher had called him careless. His friends had laughed at something he said without meaning to be cruel. At home, his parents had argued again, their voices sharp and tired. Eli had left the house early, not wanting to hear more. He stood at the bus stop and stared at the road. The bus was late. Again, he felt small, like he always did, like the world moved forward without him. He kicked a loose stone and watched it slide into a puddle. Far beyond Earth, in a place where stars burned blue and white, a signal awakened. Deep inside a massive structure made of black stone and glowing metal, ancient systems came to life. Lights spread across tall walls, carved with symbols older than many worlds. This place had many names, but most called it the Gathering Hall. It floated in open space, held steady by forces no single mind fully understood. Representatives from dozens of civilizations waited inside. Some were tall and thin, their skin smooth and pale. Others were wide and heavy, built like walking stone. A few did not walk at all, but hovered, wrapped in soft light. All of them were warriors, hunters, or leaders shaped by war. They had gathered for one reason. An enemy had returned. The enemy had no single shape. It moved through space like a living storm, consuming planets, stripping them of life and leaving silence behind. It learned from every battle. Every weapon used against it became useless the next time. Long ago, the Alliance had prepared for this moment. They built a beacon, a device that could reach across the galaxy and pull champions from their home worlds. The strongest, the most dangerous, the ones who could end wars alone. Now, with defenses falling, the beacon was their last hope. A tall figure stepped forward, its voice echoing through the hall. "The summoning begins," it said. Energy surged. Space itself bent inward. Symbols along the floor lit up in bright lines. One by one, portals opened. From a burning desert world came a massive hunter with skin like iron and eyes that glowed red. From an ocean planet came a sleek figure carrying weapons grown from coral and bone. From a moon locked in endless night came a silent being wrapped in shadows. Each arrival sent waves of power through the hall. Then the final portal opened. It flickered. Instead of fire or light, there was rain. Eli felt the world twist. One moment he was standing at the bus stop, staring at the road. The next, the rain froze in midair. Sound vanished. The city faded like smoke. He tried to shout, but no sound came out. Then he fell. He landed hard on cold metal, the impact knocking the breath from his chest. He rolled onto his side, coughing and gasping. His backpack slid away across the smooth floor. The rain vanished. Eli pushed himself up on shaking arms. His head hurt. His heart hammered in his chest. He looked around and froze. He was not on Earth anymore. The hall stretched farther than he could see. The ceiling rose like the inside of a mountain, filled with glowing lines that moved slowly, like stars trapped in glass. Tall figures stood in a wide circle around him. None of them were human. Dozens of eyes focused on him. Some were wide, some were narrow. Some glowed. Eli stood up slowly. His legs felt weak. He said. His voice echoed, small and thin. Silence followed. Then a low sound rippled through the hall. Laughter, not friendly laughter. It rolled and cracked like stone breaking. "This is Earth's champion?" one voice said. "Impossible," said another. "The beacon must be damaged." Eli swallowed. He clutched the strap of his backpack like it could protect him. "I think," he said carefully, "there's been a mistake." The laughter grew louder. A broad, armored hunter stepped forward. It stood more than twice Eli's height. Its shadow swallowed him. "This thing is a child," it said. Eli's hands curled into fists. He felt heat rise in his chest. Not anger exactly, but something close. "I'm not a thing," he said. The hunter tilted its head. "It speaks." More laughter. High above, on a raised platform, the leaders of the Alliance began to argue. Voices overlapped, sharp and urgent. "The beacon is sealed," one said. "We cannot reverse it, then send it back," another replied. "That would weaken the field. The enemy is already near." Eli did not understand their words, but he understood their tone. They were afraid. A thin figure with glowing eyes stepped down from the platform. It looked at Eli closely, scanning him with unseen tools. Symbols flickered around its hands. "There is no armor," it said. "No enhancements. No weapons." Eli lifted his backpack a little. "I have a sandwich," he said. That earned another wave of laughter. The thin figure paused. "Strange," it said quietly. The symbols around its hands flickered and went dark. "I am reading nothing," it added. The hall grew quieter. "Nothing?" another leader asked. "No energy markers? No combat training signals? No genetic alteration?" The armored hunter snorted. "Then Earth has insulted us." Eli felt his face burn. "I didn't ask to be here," he said. His voice shook, but he kept going. "I was just waiting for the bus." The words sounded small even to him. Before anyone could answer, the hall shook. A deep alarm echoed through the structure. Red light flooded the floor. The glowing lines on the walls pulsed faster. A voice boomed from above. "Enemy scouts have breached the outer boundary." The laughter vanished. Hunters moved at once, drawing weapons, shifting into battle stances, the air filled with tension. Eli's heart raced. He backed away until his legs hit something solid. He turned and saw a wall of dark metal behind him. No exit. The thin figure looked down at him. "You are bound to this summoning," it said, "whether mistake or not." Eli shook his head. "I don't know how to fight," he said. "I don't even like fighting." The figure studied him. "That," it said slowly, "may be the most worrying thing of all." The hall shook again, harder this time. Somewhere far away, something exploded. The enemy had arrived sooner than expected. Eli hugged his backpack to his chest. His thoughts raced. He wanted to go home. He wanted the rain and the bus stop and even the bad day back. But the air around him felt strange now, heavy, like the moment before a storm breaks. Lights flickered above. For just a second, every screen in the hall went dark. Then they came back on. Eli looked down at his hands. The metal floor beneath his feet was cracked. A thin line spread outward as if something deep below had pushed upward. Eli stared at it, confused. He had not moved. He had not done anything. Far across the hall, unseen by him, several instruments failed at the same time. The thin figure took a slow step back. Around them, the greatest hunters in the galaxy watched the human teenager in silence, as the floor continued to split beneath his feet. Eli stood frozen in the massive hall, the crack in the floor glowing faintly beneath his shoes. He had no idea what had just happened. One moment he was a wet, miserable teenager in the rain, and now he was at the center of a room filled with the greatest hunters the galaxy had ever known. And somehow, he had broken the floor without even touching it. The tall armored hunter, the one who had laughed at him earlier, took a step forward. Its heavy boots echoed across the hall. It bent slightly, tilting its head to study Eli. The light from its eyes reflected off the cracked metal. "You did that," the hunter said, its voice deep and slow, almost like gravel shifting. I don't know," Eli stammered. "I wasn't trying to do anything." The thin figure with glowing hands, the one the other hunters had listened to, raised its arms. Symbols flickered around it, scanning Eli. Machines beeped and hummed, but their readings made no sense. The instruments failed, showing static and error signals. "This human, it defies logic," the figure whispered. "No enhancements, no training, yet it triggers energy reactions we cannot explain." The other hunters murmured among themselves. Some whispered words Eli could not understand. He felt their eyes on him, weighing him, judging him, but not in the same way as people on Earth judged him. This was sharper, more dangerous. Then, from above, a voice boomed through the hall. "Outer defenses have failed. Enemy ships are approaching. All hunters prepare for immediate engagement." The hunters shifted into battle positions. Weapons glowed, armor plates clicked into place, and some beings simply floated, their forms changing and expanding as energy gathered around them. Eli's heart pounded. He had never held a weapon heavier than a notebook, never aimed at anyone with intent to hurt, and now he was in the middle of a room ready to face creatures that had fought wars he could not imagine. "Stay out of the way," the armored hunter barked at him. Eli flinched but kept his footing. "I don't even know what I can do," he said, his voice cracking. He wanted to disappear, but the cracked floor beneath him pulsed again, faintly at first, then stronger. The thin figure looked at him with wide eyes. Perhaps the mistake is not his presence. Perhaps it is something else. The first warning came as a pulse through the floor, vibrating through the entire hall. The lights flickered, and a deep hum filled the air. Eli could feel it in his bones. Machines and weapons went quiet for a moment, sensing the disturbance. Then the ceiling above shimmered, and a rift appeared. It was not a door, not a portal like the ones that had brought the other hunters. It was darker than the space outside the hall, stretching wide, with shapes moving inside it that made no sense. Shadows danced against shadows, and Eli felt a cold chill run down his spine. The hunters immediately reacted. They raised weapons, eyes narrowing. One of the largest with armored plates like black stone called out orders in a language Eli did not understand, and others moved to the hall's perimeter. Eli clutched his backpack. He could barely see through the fear and confusion. He wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. The floor beneath him cracked wider, but he remained standing, somehow held upright. A wave of energy shot from the rift. It hit the floor and bounced harmlessly off the hunters, but the instruments showed readings that went beyond comprehension. "You are bound," the thin figure said again, looking at Eli. "Whether mistake or not, you cannot leave. And now the enemy knows you exist." The armored hunter grunted. "A child in the presence of the swarm? This is folly." The floor pulsed again beneath Eli. The glow intensified, wrapping around his feet and creeping up his legs. He didn't understand what was happening, but he could feel a strange warmth spreading, mixing with fear. "Eli," a voice called out softly. It was not one of the hunters. It came from inside him, or maybe from somewhere else. "You can control it. Don't fight it." Eli's mind raced. "Control what?" The glow rose, forming faint outlines around him. The metal beneath him shivered. A small tremor spread outward, making the cracks in the floor widen slightly. Dust fell from the ceiling as the hunters turned to watch. The swarm emerged from the rift, appearing closer now. Shapes moved with impossible speed. They were neither solid nor completely visible, but their presence pressed on the hall like a heavy wind. The hunters raised weapons and fired. Energy blasts streaked through the air, but many dissipated before hitting anything, absorbed by the strange nature of the enemy. Eli's hands shook. He wanted to scream, to throw himself to the floor, to hide, but the glow grew stronger. It formed a faint shield around him, pushing the swarm back slightly. Machines beeped furiously. The hunters froze. "What is this?" one asked, voice tight. "I don't know," another said. "Never seen anything like it." The armored hunter lowered its weapon slowly, eyes narrowing. "The child," it muttered, almost in disbelief. Eli's heart pounded. He had no idea what he was doing. He wanted to be anywhere else. Yet the floor beneath him shifted again, cracks widening into long lines of glowing energy. The glow pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, almost like it was listening to him. The swarm tried to push forward, but every time it approached, the glow expanded and forced it back. Eli realized he could feel it. If he concentrated, it moved where he wanted. Not fully, but enough to protect him and the hunters nearby. The thin figure whispered, "Incredible. The human stress response, it manifests as energy, emotional survival instinct, amplified beyond understanding." Eli did not understand the words. He only knew one thing. He was not going to be eaten today. The energy beneath him flared, rising higher, pushing the debris back. He felt the pulse of his heartbeat synchronize with the glow, and then the strange realization hit him. The energy responded to his emotions. Anger, fear, frustration, all of it fed the glow, gave it strength. "Control it," the armored hunter said. "Do not let it control you. Use it." Eli's mind raced. He had no training, no experience, no idea how to manage something this powerful. Yet the enemy pressed closer, forcing him to act. He focused on his fear, shaping it into determination, and the glow flared again, forming a shield that blocked the swarm's advance. The hunters around him began to move with more confidence, taking advantage of the temporary reprieve. Then the rift pulsed again, wider this time, and the swarm surged in numbers and intensity. Shapes twisted and merged, creating forms that seemed impossible. They moved faster than anything Eli had ever seen, like shadows with teeth. The hall trembled with their presence. The hunters fired with precision, but many blasts dissipated against the swirling mass of the swarm. Eli felt panic rise, but pushed it down. He concentrated on the rhythm of his heartbeat, on the warmth of the energy flowing from him. He thought of all the bad things from his life, the failed tests, the arguments at home, the loneliness, and let it feed the energy. The glow responded, expanding outward in waves, pushing the swarm back once more. A hush fell over the hunters. Even the armored hunter stepped back, its weapon lowered slightly. "Impossible," it muttered. The human, it survives against odds that would kill the greatest warriors among us. The thin figure hovered closer, scanning Eli with growing fascination. It is not strength, it whispered. It is adaptation, emotional adaptation. His survival instinct manifests as energy. He does not even know he is fighting, yet he is winning. Eli did not understand the words. All he knew was that if he stopped focusing, he would die. The swarm pressed closer, but the energy responded faster than he could think. Shapes dissolved before they touched him. Shadows shattered into harmless fragments. Each pulse of the glow pushed them farther away, creating space and safety in the hall. Then, without warning, the swarm changed tactics. Instead of attacking directly, smaller units began to infiltrate from the sides, trying to reach him from angles he had not protected. The hunters noticed immediately, firing in multiple directions, but some of the units slipped through. Eli felt the floor beneath him tremble as the energy reacted, stretching outward in all directions. The cracks spread, lines of glowing light racing across the metal floor. "Stay focused," the armored hunter barked. "Do not falter. You are the line between survival and annihilation." Eli's head spun. He felt dizzy, overwhelmed by the pressure and the energy coursing through him. His vision blurred, but he forced himself to concentrate, to push the energy where it needed to go. The glow wrapped around him like a cocoon, expanding in pulses that struck the swarm with every beat of his heart. The enemy faltered, unsure of how to react, their calculated strikes failing against something that could not be predicted. The thin figure's voice broke the momentary silence. The swarm cannot model him. Every attack it tries, he adapts instinctively. This is beyond any hunter we have ever known. Eli did not feel proud or strong. He felt scared and tired, wishing for home and safety. Yet he realized that running was impossible. The hall, the rift, the hunters, all of it depended on him. Whether he wanted to admit it or not, he had to survive, if only to survive another moment. A massive unit from the swarm approached, larger and darker than the others. It moved like a wave, swallowing smaller enemies in its path. The hunters focused all their firepower on it, but the energy it emitted resisted conventional weapons. Eli felt a surge of panic and anger rise inside him, and the glow flared violently, forming a barrier that repelled the unit, forcing it to retreat momentarily. The armored hunter took a cautious step forward. The human's instinct, it is his weapon. We have not faced this before. He fights without thinking. He survives without strategy, and yet he stands stronger than any of us. Eli's heart raced. He felt the sweat on his face and the shaking of his hands, but he also felt something else, a connection between himself and the energy, a strange understanding that the more he allowed himself to feel, the stronger the glow became. Fear, anger, frustration, all of it became fuel. The swarm regrouped, trying a new tactic. It split into smaller units, moving faster and striking from multiple directions at once. The hunters fired relentlessly, but Eli realized that he could anticipate the attack somehow, instinctively pushing the glow to block them before they landed. He had no control over it, yet the energy seemed to respond to his will without him realizing it. The thin figure floated closer, eyes wide with awe. "He is the key," it whispered. "He does not need training. He does not need weapons. He survives because he is human. He adapts, and adaptation is beyond calculation." Eli did not understand the words fully. He only knew that he was alive. He only knew that every pulse of energy, every beat of his heart was keeping him alive. And yet he felt a creeping exhaustion, a heavy weight pressing down, telling him that he could not continue forever. Then a new voice echoed in his mind, soft but firm. "Do not be afraid. You can do this. You can control it." Eli's eyes widened. The voice was not spoken, yet he understood it. He focused, imagining the glow as an extension of himself, not something separate. The energy responded, stretching outward, forming barriers that blocked every attack. The swarm hesitated, confused and unable to understand how one human could wield such power. The armored hunter lowered its weapon slightly. "He is extraordinary. If he survives, the galaxy will never be the same." Eli did not feel extraordinary. He felt like a boy who had gotten caught in something he could not understand, fighting for his life with nothing but instinct and fear. Yet the energy pulsed, responding to his determination, and the swarm could not reach him. The hunters continued to fight, taking advantage of the openings Eli's energy created, but all eyes were on him. Time seemed to stretch. The rift pulsed, the swarm advanced and retreated, the hunters fired with precision, and Eli continued to channel the energy without fully understanding it. His fear, his anger, his desperation, all of it became fuel. He realized that even though he was scared and untrained, he could survive. Somehow he could fight back even if he did not know how. And in that moment, Eli understood something important. He was not just a boy having a bad day. He was the center of something far larger, something the galaxy had never expected. He was the line between survival and destruction, and whether he wanted it or not, he would have to fight, not because he was brave, but because he had no other choice. The hall was quiet now, though the air still trembled with tension. The swarm had retreated, but only for a moment. Eli stood at the center of the glow, panting, sweat running down his face. His heart was pounding so hard he felt it in his throat. Around him, the hunters were still alert, watching, scanning, preparing for the next attack. Even the armored hunter, who had laughed at him days before, now looked at him with caution and respect. A thin figure floated closer, eyes wide. It did not speak at first, only stared. Then it said, "Your mind. It is different. Your instincts are beyond prediction. Humans, perhaps we have underestimated your kind." Eli shook his head. "I don't understand any of this. I'm just me. I was waiting for a bus, and now this." The armored hunter grunted. "You are more than you know. If the swarm returns, the galaxy may depend on you alone." Eli swallowed. He looked down at the glow beneath his feet. It pulsed, strong and alive. He did not understand how it worked. He only knew that if he stopped concentrating, the swarm could break through, and that thought sent a new wave of fear through him. "Human," the thin figure said, its voice soft, "we must understand you. How do you produce this energy? How do you survive against enemies that would kill the most seasoned hunters?" Eli shook his head again. "I don't know. I just feel things. Scared, angry, frustrated. I don't think. I just react." The figure's eyes widened. "Reaction. Instinct. You are the product of survival, not training. Your species is remarkable. You adapt under stress. You survive because your mind cannot be fully calculated. That is extraordinary." Eli did not feel extraordinary. He felt tired, scared, and angry. He had never wanted this. He had never wanted to be here. Yet somehow he was at the center of a conflict that stretched across the galaxy. He was the focus of hunters, both allies and enemies, and the living weapon known as the swarm. A sudden vibration shook the hall. The armored hunter raised its weapon. Incoming! From the rift, a new wave of the swarm emerged. Faster, more aggressive, more coordinated. The hunters fired immediately, beams and blasts of energy slicing through the hall, yet the swarm pressed on, relentless. Eli felt the pressure building. The glow around him reacted to his heartbeat, rising higher, forming a shield that pushed the swarm back again. "Focus on your emotions," the armored hunter shouted. "Do not let panic control you. Use it." Eli clenched his fists. He thought of the bad day, of the loneliness, of the fear and anger that had followed him all his life. He let it flow into the glow. It pulsed, bright and strong, expanding outward, pushing the swarm back. He did not know how he controlled it. He only knew that if he stopped, they would be upon him. The thin figure floated closer, studying him with awe. "You are a weapon that cannot be measured. The swarm cannot calculate your response. It cannot model your instincts. You survive because you adapt. This is beyond anything we have ever seen." Eli's chest heaved. He felt the heat of exertion, the ache in his muscles, the fear and adrenaline coursing through him, and yet he also felt a strange calm. The glow was part of him now, a reflection of his emotions, his instincts, his will to survive. The swarm could not reach him because it could not understand him. The armored hunter took a cautious step closer. "Human," it said, voice low, "you are untrained. You have no weapons. You face an enemy that has destroyed civilizations, yet here you stand. Tell me, can you control it?" Ellie shook his head. I don't know. I just do it. I feel it, and it happens." The thin figure nodded slowly. "It is instinct. Survival instinct. Emotional response. Your kind, humans. Perhaps we have underestimated you." Eli did not feel proud. He felt scared and alone, yet he could not deny the truth. He had survived the swarm's attack when the greatest hunters might have fallen. He had survived when all logic suggested he should have been destroyed. Another pulse came from the rift. The swarm prepared again, this time in a larger formation, testing the energy surrounding Eli. The hall trembled. The hunters fired with precision, but the swarm's intelligence was increasing. It learned from every failed attack. It adapted quickly, faster than before. Eli's fear rose, but he forced himself to concentrate. The glow expanded, wrapping around him, reacting to every heartbeat, every thought, every emotion. He could not control it fully, yet it responded to him instinctively. The swarm faltered, unable to calculate its movements, confused by the unpredictable patterns of the energy. The armored hunter lowered its weapon slightly. "Incredible," it muttered. "The human does not fight with skill or strategy. It fights with instinct, with survival. And that is more powerful than any weapon we possess." Eli felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. His muscles ached, his mind spun, but he forced himself to continue. The swarm pressed closer, testing the energy, probing for weaknesses. Eli let anger and fear flow into the glow, shaping it, guiding it without fully knowing how. The energy responded, pushing the swarm back, dissolving the shapes that approached him. The thin figure floated closer, eyes wide with fascination. "This is an adaptation at a level we cannot comprehend. The human's instincts produce energy that protects not only itself but those around it. It survives because it must. It adapts because it is human." Eli did not understand fully. He only knew that if he stopped, the swarm would overwhelm him. He felt the pressure, the weight of responsibility. Yet he also felt a strange clarity. The glow responded to his emotions, his instincts, his will to survive. It was alive in a way he could feel but not explain. The swarm shifted tactics again, sending smaller, faster units to infiltrate from the sides. The hunters reacted immediately, firing at the new threat. The energy around Eli expanded, forming a protective dome that blocked the units. He did not think. He did not plan. He only reacted, letting the energy move in response to his fear and determination. The armored hunter watched, silent for a moment. "He is extraordinary. If he survives, the galaxy will never be the same. No weapon, no warrior could match this instinctual power." Eli's chest heaved. He felt sweat pouring down his face, muscles trembling, yet he knew he could not stop. The swarm would not wait. The rift pulsed again, sending a new wave of the enemy forward. The glow responded, stronger than ever, reacting to his heartbeat, his fear, his anger. It expanded outward, striking the swarm with every pulse, forcing it back. The thin figure spoke quietly, almost reverently. "He's not trained. He has no experience. Yet he survives. He fights without thought, without strategy, without planning. He is instinct, survival, humanity, all at once." Eli did not feel heroic. He felt like a boy caught in something beyond him. He had never wanted this, never asked for it, yet he could not run. He could not hide. The swarm was coming, and all eyes in the hall were on him. He had no choice but to survive. The rift pulsed again, the swarm pressed forward, and the hunters continued to fire. Eli's glow expanded with each pulse, each beat of his heart, each surge of emotion. Fear, anger, frustration, determination, all of it became energy. All of it became defense. All of it became survival. And in that moment, Eli understood that he was no longer just a boy having a bad day. He was the center of something far larger, something the galaxy had never expected. He was instinct, adaptation, survival made flesh, and whether he wanted it or not, he would have to continue. Because if he faltered, if he stopped, the galaxy itself might fall. The hall trembled as the swarm pressed harder. Eli's glow expanded and pulsed with every beat of his heart, reacting to his fear, anger, and determination. The hunters fought beside him, but even their combined strength seemed small compared to the relentless advance of the enemy. The rift above pulsed, wider and darker, as if the swarm was testing the limits of the hall and the defenses within. Eli's legs ached. His chest heaved with exhaustion. His hands shook, but he could not stop. He had no idea how much energy he had, or how long he could keep it going. All he knew was that he had to survive, because if he stopped, the swarm would reach him and the hunters would fall one by one. The armored hunter stepped close to him. "Human, listen. You can survive this. Focus your emotions. Anger, fear, frustration, they are your power. Do not fight the energy. Let it flow." Eli nodded, though his head spun. He could feel the glow wrapping higher, forming a dome around him, expanding outward in waves. The swarm struck again, faster and more coordinated. The hunters fired in all directions, beams of light streaking across the hall. But the energy was the true shield. Shapes collided with the glow and dissolved. Shadows fell apart before reaching him. A thin figure floated closer, eyes wide. "Do you understand what this means?" it whispered. "The human's instinctual response produces energy that the swarm cannot model. Every move it makes, he adapts instinctively. This is unprecedented." Eli did not answer. He could barely think beyond the pulse of the energy and the fear that pressed against him. He felt small insignificant and terrified, yet also more alive than ever. The fear, the anger, the frustration, they were part of him now, and he was using them to survive. From the rift, the swarm launched a massive strike, a coordinated wave of dark energy that stretched across the hall. The hunters fired everything they had, but even their weapons seemed to falter against the sheer force. Eli felt panic rise, threatening to break his concentration. The glow flared violently, expanding outward, pushing the enemy back. Shapes dissolved before they could reach him, but the effort drained him. The armored hunter placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. Do not falter. If you survive, the galaxy will see what humans are capable of. You are the line between survival and destruction. Eli nodded, trying to focus. He thought about the bus stop, the rain, the failed test, the arguments at home, the loneliness, all of it. He let it flow into the glow. The energy pulsed with his heartbeat, expanding outward, striking the swarm, keeping it at bay. He had no control, yet instinctively he knew where to push it, how to shield himself and the hunters around him. The thin figure whispered again. Humans, they adapt to survive in ways no other species can. Emotional survival manifests as energy. He survives because he must, and that is more powerful than any weapon we possess. The rift pulsed again. The swarm shifted tactics, sending smaller, faster units to infiltrate from the sides. The hunters reacted immediately, but some units slipped through. The energy around Eli expanded automatically, forming a protective dome that blocked them. He did not think, he did not plan. He only reacted. Every heartbeat, every emotion, every fear and anger fed the energy. Eli's chest burned, sweat pouring down his face. His muscles trembled. He wanted to fall, to give up, to be anywhere else, but he could not. The swarm was relentless. It would not stop, and neither could he. The hall trembled, dust fell from the ceiling, and the hunters continued to fight, relying on the openings created by the energy. The armored hunter lowered its weapon slightly. Incredible, it muttered. The human fights without thought, without training, without planning, and yet it survives. It adapts. It endures. Eli felt the pressure building. The swarm pressed harder, more coordinated, more intelligent. He felt the energy stretching, trying to push back more than he could handle. Panic threatened to overwhelm him, but he forced himself to focus. The glow pulsed, expanding outward, striking the swarm, dissolving their forms before they could reach him. The thin figure floated closer, eyes wide. He is a weapon unlike any we have ever seen. His instincts, his emotions, his very humanity, it produces energy that the swarm cannot understand. It cannot predict, cannot model. He survives because he adapts. And that is extraordinary. Eli's mind raced. Did not understand fully. He only knew he had to survive. The glow expanded, wrapping around him like a shield, a barrier, a force he did not know how to control. The swarm pressed forward again, but the energy held. Every shape that tried to reach him dissolved. Every attack failed. The armored hunter spoke again. Do not stop, human. Your instinct, your fear, your anger, they are your strength. If you falter, we fall. If you endure, the galaxy may live. Eli felt the weight of the words. He wanted to cry, to scream, to run, but he could not. The energy pulsed with his heartbeat, reacting to his emotions, his instincts. He let fear, frustration, and anger flow into it. The glow flared, brighter and stronger, expanding outward in waves, pushing the swarm back. The hunters fired alongside him, but all eyes were on the energy that came from his instinct. The rift pulsed violently. The swarm launched another wave, larger and faster than before. The hall trembled, dust and debris falling from the ceiling. Eli felt exhaustion, pain, fear, and determination all at once. He focused on his heartbeat, the flow of energy, the instinct that kept him alive. The glow responded, expanding outward, striking the swarm, forcing it back again. The thin figure whispered, if he survives, if he endures, the galaxy will never be the same. No weapon, no army, no hunter could match this instinctual power. Eli did not feel powerful. He felt terrified, exhausted, and alone. Yet he could not stop. The swarm was relentless, intelligent, adaptive. If he faltered, everything would fall. The hall, the hunters, the galaxy itself depended on him now. The armored hunter stepped closer. Human, you are extraordinary, though you do not know it. The swarm will continue to come. You must endure. You must survive. Do not falter. Eli nodded, gritting his teeth. He let the glow respond to every emotion, every instinct, every heartbeat. The swarm struck again, and the energy pushed back, dissolving their forms before they could reach him. The hunters moved with precision, taking advantage of the openings Eli created, yet all eyes remained on him. Time seemed endless. The rift pulsed, the swarm attacked, the hall trembled, and Eli continued to channel the energy instinctively without thinking. Fear, anger, frustration, all became power. All became survival. All became instinct made manifest, and in that moment, Eli understood the truth. He was no longer just a boy having a bad day. He was the center of something far larger than himself. He was instinct, adaptation, survival made real. And whether he wanted it or not, he would have to endure, because if he faltered, the galaxy itself might fall. The rift above pulsed violently, spreading shadows across the hall. The swarm advanced with terrifying speed and coordination. Eli stood at the center of the glow, heart pounding, muscles trembling, sweat pouring down his face. The hunters fought beside him, but all eyes were on him now. He was no longer just a boy. He was instinct, adaptation, survival made real. The armored hunters stepped close, voice booming over the chaos. Human, this is the moment. Do not falter. Your instinct, your fear, your anger, they are your weapons. Use them. The galaxy depends on you. Eli nodded, focusing on the glow beneath his feet. It pulsed with his heartbeat, expanding outward, responding to his emotions. Fear, frustration, anger, they flowed into it, making it stronger. He did not fully understand it, but he knew if he stopped, the swarm would overwhelm him. The swarm attacked again, faster and more aggressive than ever. The hunters fired relentlessly, beams and blasts of energy streaking across the hall. Shapes dissolved before they could reach Eli, blocked by the instinctual energy that pulsed from him. The rift pulsed with each strike, the shadows shifting and twisting in impossible ways. The thin figure floated closer, eyes wide with awe. This is adaptation beyond comprehension. The human's instinct produces energy that protects itself and those around it. The swarm cannot predict it. It cannot model it. It learns, but it cannot adjust fast enough. Eli felt the weight of the words, but he did not have time to think about them. The swarm pressed closer, testing every edge of the hall, probing for weaknesses. The energy responded instinctively, expanding and pulsing, striking the swarm before it could reach him. Dust fell from the ceiling. Alarms blared, and the hunters continued to fire, but the true power was the instinctual glow around him. A massive unit from the swarm approached, larger and darker than the others. Its form twisted, shifting in impossible shapes, moving faster than anything Eli had ever seen. The hunters focused all their firepower on it, but it absorbed and redirected most attacks. Eli felt panic rise, threatening to break his concentration. He took a deep breath, focusing on the fear, the anger, the frustration, and let it flow into the glow. The energy surged, striking the massive unit and pushing it back, dissolving its form. The armored hunter's eyes widened. Incredible. The human fights without thought, without strategy, without training, and yet it survives. It adapts instinctively. It endures where no one else could. Eli felt exhaustion wash over him, muscles trembling, heart racing, but he forced himself to continue. The swarm pressed harder, sending waves of smaller units from multiple directions. The energy pulsed in response to his instincts, blocking and dissolving the enemy before it could reach him. He did not plan, he did not think. He only reacted, letting the energy flow with his emotions and survival instinct. The thin figure floated closer, voice quiet, almost reverent. He is not trained. He has no weapons. He faces an enemy that has destroyed civilizations, yet he survives. He adapts. He endures. He is instinct made real. He is humanity. Eli did not feel heroic. He felt terrified, exhausted, and alone, yet he could not stop. The hall trembled with each strike. The rift pulsed with each wave of the swarm, and the hunters fought alongside him. But all eyes were on him, watching the energy that came from instinct, survival, and human emotion. A sudden silence fell. The swarm hesitated, confused and disoriented by the unpredictable energy. The rift pulsed one final time, and the massive shadow units retreated, unable to understand or adapt to Eli's instinctual defense. The hunters lowered their weapons slightly, watching in disbelief. The armored hunter spoke, voice low and awed. The human... It survived, against all odds. The swarm cannot understand it. No weapon, no army, no hunter could match this instinctual power. Eli's chest heaved, sweat and exhaustion covering him. He had survived, but he felt no triumph. He felt relief, fear, and confusion. He had been pushed beyond anything he had ever known, yet he had endured. The glow pulsed one last time, then faded, leaving him standing in the middle of the hall, breathing heavily, alive. The thin figure floated closer, studying him. "You are extraordinary, though you may not understand it. You survived where no one else could. The galaxy will never be the same because of you." Eli did not respond. He only stood there trying to catch his breath, trying to understand what had happened. He thought of the bus stop, the rain, the bad day that had led to this. He realized that everything, the fear, the frustration, the anger, the loneliness, had shaped him in ways no one could calculate. It had made him survive. The armored hunter stepped forward. "Human, you have proven that your instincts, your emotions, your very humanity are more powerful than any weapon. You survived the swarm. You are the line between survival and destruction." Eli nodded slowly. He did not feel powerful, but he knew he had endured. He had survived when the galaxy expected him to fail, and in doing so, he had changed everything. Outside the hall, the rift closed, the shadows of the swarm disappearing into the void. The hall trembled one last time, then fell silent. The hunters looked around, cautious but relieved. The threat had been repelled, and the human boy who had been pulled from a rainy street on Earth had survived against impossible odds. Eli stood in the center, sweat running down his face, chest heaving, heart still pounding. He felt exhausted, terrified and alone, but also strangely alive. He had been pushed to the limits of fear, anger, and instinct, and he had endured. The armored hunter placed a hand on his shoulder. "You are extraordinary. Not because of weapons, not because of training, but because of who you are. Instinct, adaptation, survival, humanity. You have shown us all what that means." Eli nodded, too tired to speak. He looked around at the hall, the hunters, and the space beyond. He had been part of something vast, dangerous, and unimaginable, and he had survived. Against all odds, he had endured. The thin figure whispered, almost to itself, "The galaxy will never be the same. Humans, they are not weak, they are not predictable. They survive, they endure, they adapt, they are extraordinary." Eli closed his eyes, trying to catch his breath. He did not feel heroic. He did not feel strong. He felt alive, and that was enough. He had survived the swarm. He had survived the hall. He had survived himself. And in that moment, he understood something simple and powerful. Being human, being instinctual, being alive, was more than enough to change the galaxy.